Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with another from the 2024 lineup from Collecta, and this is, I think, to my knowledge, the very first time that we've had an actual Nanuqsaurus released by a company like this, because there are like 3D printed models out, resin models and stuff like that for the species, but I don't recall a company actually releasing a figure or a model of the species previously. So that's pretty exciting to actually have one now out on the market. And I think this one, was a little controversial for many. I feel like some people thought it looked a bit off, and some people really quite liked it. Some people didn't so much like the fact that the tail heads down toward the ground, and some people did. So I think there's just a nice, healthy mixture of feelings as far as this one goes, but I can say, in hand, it actually looks a whole lot better than I was expecting it to. I actually, for some reason, expected to potentially not like this one that much, just because the prototype images kind of made it look a little off to me, but again, having it here in person, I actually think it looks way better than I was expecting. So, as always, let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look at it, and we'll check it out from there. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our Nanuqsaurus, you can see we've got some nice looking skin texture here for the snout of the dinosaur, which is a nice touch. It almost looks like we actually have a slight injury right there near the palate area as well, which is pretty cool if that is in fact what that is. Again, I love little things like that, little bits of realism. You can see the nostrils for the figure. You can also see the mouth is sculpted in an open position. It does not have an articulated jaw, as it is a pretty small figure. But again, you can see the teeth on the inside of the mouth, and they look pretty good. They're some teeth are sort of jumbled together, but for the most part, I think they look pretty decent. Not too sloppy or anything as far as the paintwork or anything like that. Maybe a little heavy in that one spot, but maybe just barely, because actually the teeth, I think, look pretty darn nice up there on the inside of the mouth. We can also see a tongue sculpted for the inside of the mouth in there, painted with a pinkish tone. But since the mouth isn't open super wide, it's a little hard to get in there and really see how nice the inside of the mouth does look. We do also have some nice brownish tones here for the face, but as we lead back closer to the eye area, you can see we pick up a little bit of like a light grayish tone, and then we have like a black kind of stripe that moves through the face, and then we can see that we have a little bit of a darker brown there around the eye, and then the eye painted with a very nice glossy black. I think the eye looks as genuinely realistic as it could possibly get. You can also see we have another little black spot right there as well, back behind the head here, moving into the neck. I do really like the way that they've painted the head and neck of the dinosaur right here, as we have like a grayish tone, kind of like a light gray, and then that as well has been dry brushed over with a white, and it looks really neat. I think it just definitely highlights the detail in that area, adds a little depth to the coloration, and is honestly quite appealing looking here in person. We also have a little bit more of that white running up and over the top of the snout of the dinosaur. As you can see, we have that same thing pretty much occurring for the lower jaws. We hit the brown leading back, we transition to that sort of white and gray mixture. Moving into the underside of the throat, you can see the throat of the dinosaur. We do have a light tone. That kind of white runs along the underside of our Nanuqsaurus the entire way through. You can also see we have a nice brown for the body, but of course we have a feathered look for the dinosaur. Again, something I may or may not have mentioned. I can't remember if I said that, but obviously we have feathers as we move back into the neck of our Nanuqsaurus, and then as you lead down into the body, you can see those feathers transition to a brownish tone, but they've lightly dry brushed over it with some nice variations of greens here along the side, which is an interesting color choice that actually somehow works really nicely to highlight the detail. And you can also see we actually have more of that white, very sporadically kind of dry brushed along the spinal column. It's not like consistent, kind of a light dry brushing that just shows up in certain spots moving along the spinal column to add a little bit of extra variation of color, and you do see a little more of that kind of moving down here along the legs and even on the side of the tail. But also, you can see the feathers are kind of sculpted in a way where they have that almost emu-like kind of shaggy feathering to the dinosaur, which I also like. Moving down into the arms, you can see the arms are nice and short like they should be. You've got some nicely sculpted fingers, and you can see that the nails are painted with a black. As you continue to move back into the stomach, pretty smooth transition from the brown to the light underbelly of the dinosaur. You can see a little girth in the stomach of our Nanuqsaurus, not making it look overweight or anything, but looks like it's at least pretty well fed. We've got the hip bone kind of protruding from the feathers there a little bit. You can also sort of make out some muscle definition in the thigh and definitely in the calf, but it's not overly obvious because, of course, it's covered in feathers, so it would be a little harder to really see it. And then as you move down into the foot is also nicely sculpted. You've got some toes sculpted with scoots moving down, also some really quite vibrant scale detail moving along the foot, and they've painted it with a darker variation of a gray and then used that same similar either light gray or a white to dry brush all of that detail out, and it definitely pops really nicely. I think that was a great choice as far as the paintwork goes, and you can also see the nails are painted again, actually not with a black. It looks like they're black on the fingers, but down here they're more of a darker gray. And then as you move back up toward the tail, you can see that light tone of the underbelly starts to disappear, and then the tail primarily is a variation of brown, and again with a mixture of the greens as well as the white dry brushing. And as you move out into the tail, look at how good the feather detail actually looks. Again, definitely giving it that really kind of shaggy feathering look, and I think it really is quite nice. You can see just a wavy appearance to the feathers as you move out. You can obviously see how the tail leads down and then back up there at the tip. You can see kind of like some shaggy feathers there on the underside of the tail as you lead out. Definitely really nice shaggy feathering right there. And then as you lead out into the tail, we have a darker brown, and again we've been dry brushed over with that white tone out there for those tail feathers as well. And then if we turn the figure around, you can again see the head sculpt looks pretty nice. As you lead back into the neck again, it's actually looking like they might have given that black spot to highlight the ear. I think that might be what the goal was right there, because I can really notice the ear on this side. But you can again see the detailing all looks pretty much the same over here, just like it did on the other side, though I don't notice that area where I said it kind of looked like an injury on the face on this side, so I think that definitely was what they were going for over there. But as you move back, you can see that the head and neck is pretty straightforward. The arms are pretty close to the same position. This one might be a little bit further forward, and the leg is only slightly more forward on this side, and it looks like maybe the dinosaur has just kind of taken a small step. Maybe it's about to start walking again. You can kind of see how this foot is just like about to pick up off of the ground, but the legs aren't in such a drastic different position that you're going to see a huge difference when it comes to the overall visual on this side compared to the other side. So overall, as I said, this figure is actually way nicer in hand than I was expecting it to, and that's one of the reasons, one of the many reasons honestly, but one of the primary reasons I never tried to truly judge a figure from the prototype images, because I feel like it just never tells you exactly how the figure is going to look and exactly how you're going to feel about it when you do see it in person. As I said, this one is actually way better than the prototype led me to believe it would be. Now, another thing that I do notice about the figure, and I think it's the way it's supposed to be, but I don't know for sure if maybe the leg just got warped a little bit in transit, but you can see how the leg is kind of tilted. I don't know if the leg is in fact warped or if it's just supposed to kind of give it the look of the dinosaur maybe having its leg out to the side as it's about to pick the foot up. Again, I'm not positive if the goal is to have it that way or if maybe the leg just warped slightly on its way. But as far as a size goes, it is pretty small. For a length, you are looking at about a hair under 6 1/4 inches. Doesn't look like it at all when you look at it on the camera right now, but when I look at it from up above slightly to get a better view, it's like just a hair under 6 1/4 inches or just shy of about 16 centimeters. And then for a height, a little under 2 inches or just shy of 5 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Golovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collecta human being next to our Collecta 2024 Nanuqsaurus. And you can see, as I said, it's a pretty small figure. Definitely not a whole lot when it comes to the size, and considering it is one of Collecta's smaller ranged figures, I believe it's like the Age of Dinosaurs line, I think is what this one is part of. It sits there in the size range you usually expect to see. Then for another comparison, we have the Struthiomimus from Collecta next to our Nanuqsaurus. Obviously, we're just going to go with some randoms because outside of the Nicoloroglic, Nanuqsaurus, I don't really have any others in my collection, so we're just going to have to go with some random Collecta figures. And then to give you a good idea of how different the sizes are from a deluxe figure, we have the deluxe Nanuqsaurus next to our Nanuqsaurus, which you can very clearly see pretty big size difference here. We've also got the Collecta Dilophosaurus here next to our Nanuqsaurus, which you can see even the Dilophosaurus is actually quite a bit larger. As well as the Collecta Beckelspinax. If you happen to have that figure, you can see that one as well as a little bit larger than our Nanuqsaurus. And the final one we have is the Collecta Saurophaganax for one final comparison, just to kind of give you an idea of the size of this brand new Nanuqsaurus. So Collecta each and every year tries to give us some really cool species, and often gives us species that we don't normally have, or we haven't at least had until that point, and a good helping of, figures that we just don't have many of. In this case, in this instance, we've got the Nanuqsaurus, which is a figure that we don't have any of really, outside of, again, as I said earlier, like, 3D printed models and stuff that you can acquire from different artists. But when it comes to companies like Collecta, nobody has released one that I'm aware of so far. So it is really exciting to have one from them. And I think Collecta has actually done a really good job on this figure. Again, it's way better in person than I was expecting it to be. I don't know what it was about that prototype image. It just kind of looked a little off to me. And I'm really pleased to see that in hand the figure looks way better than I think the original prototype kind of let everyone think it did. But we also have, on top of looking a lot better, some nice fine detail. Again, the feathered look of the Nanuqsaurus is really well done, and they've sculpted the feathers out in a very realistic way. Again, giving it some nice kind of wavy feathering, very similar to modern day birds, like larger modern day birds like the emu and stuff like that. But they also have, on top of that, given it a really nice coloration that I think looks natural overall, and absolutely the type of coloration I could see on a species like this. They've also applied the paint really beautifully. Again, with the different dry brushing techniques they've used here, they've done a great job of highlighting the detail and enhancing the paint job overall in a way that looks, again, very natural. And that's always one of the most important things, I think, when it comes to producing any sort of like a modern day or prehistoric animal, is making it look natural, making it look like that could be the way it looks in real life. And I think they've achieved that quite nicely with this figure. Pretty nice pose as well, even though it's nothing spectacular, and some people don't really like it so much because of the tail down on the ground, but I actually do, because again, I feel like it's just a moment of resting taking place here for our Nanuqsaurus, and again, something that just differentiates it a little bit from other Collecta figures that are out. If we always had the same pose, it would get pretty boring, and I do appreciate them kind of switching it up once in a while. So if you are interested in this, make sure you are following Everything Dinosaur on their social media accounts, or at the very least, you're checking their website from time to time, because this will be coming into stock on Everything Dinosaur at some point in 2024, I believe early 2024. So make sure you keep checking back. Again, stay up to date on everything that Everything Dinosaur is stocking, and when this does come into stock, make sure you pick it up if you are interested, and also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.